ladies and gentlemen, this is it. This is the last new thing of this semester. So we're doing circles. So there is a conic section with a circle, which is a straight horizontal cut of one of our cones for the conic section, which happens to just be a circle. All right, now we left circles for the end. This is the definition of circles. You probably don't care, so let's move on. So there's two types of circles we're going to look at. One is called the standard form. One is called the general form. The standard form is extremely easy. There's not much to this. That equation up top is what we're looking at. Again, like the parabola where we have h and k for the vertex, we have h and k for the center of our ellipse, and the h and k for the center of the box for our hyperbola. H and k is going to be the center of our circle. Okay. Again, when it comes out of the parentheses, they change their signs. And last but not least, out of this equation is the r squared. The r value is going to be the radius of your circle. Okay. So if you take the square root of whatever is in the r position, it's going to be your radius, and you just put a point that's that distance from your center up, down, left, and right, and draw the best circle you can. Okay, it's not going to be perfect. That's fine, just as long as it doesn't look like an ellipse. Okay. All right. So let's get into this. All right, so here we go. This is your standard form for a circle. Your center is going to be h comma k, which in this case is going to be 3 comma 2. So we put our point at 3 comma 2. Then we take the square root of 16, which gives you 4, and that is our radius. And then you put points up, down, left, and right of 4 from that center point, and you draw your circle. Okay, that's it. There's nothing that's tricky about standard form for circles. Let's try another one. The center of this one, h and k, is going to be -1 and +4. We go left by 1 and up by 4. So there's our point for the center of our circle. Our radius is going to be the square root of 25, which is just 5. Then we go up, down, left, and right, 5 from the center, and draw our circle. All right, now, word for these, it's supposed to be a circle, but you're drawing it freehand. Do the best you can. If it's not perfect, that's fine. Just do the best you can. All right, so that is standard form, but there's also one other type, and it's called general form. And general form is a little bit more tricky, but we're going to show you step by step how to do this. It's really not as... it looks like a lot of stuff, but it's really not that difficult. Okay. So here's some general rules for the general form. All right, to graph a general form circle, before we can do that, we have to convert it into standard form. So we're going to take this format and make it into a standard form, which is the part we just looked at. Okay, to do this, what we're going to do is complete the square for both the x and the y values in our equation. Okay, so completing the square is something you might have learned in like Math 2. If you didn't, that's fine. We're going to show you how to do it, so don't get too freaked out. All right, so this is what we do. So this is our example of a general form equation. So we have x squared, y squared. We have a 2x, a 6y, minus 15. So first step is you're going to take the c and the d values, and the c and the d values are corresponded by the terms in front of the x and the y that is not being squared. So that would be 2 and 6. Okay, you're going to take both those numbers, 2 and 6, you're going to divide them both by 2, you're going to square it. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 1 squared is 1. So we're going to put that in the equation in a minute. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 3 squared is 9. So we're going to rewrite those numbers, 1 and 9, in our equation, and we're going to put them on both sides of the equal sign. So it looks like this. So you can see at the end of our equation, on both sides of the equal sign, we have a 1 and a 9. Okay, the reason we have them on both sides is because we are changing the way the equation looks, but not what it equals. So if you were to subtract that 1 and 9 to the other side, it would cancel out and give us 0 again. We don't need to do that, but we could. Okay, so now it looks like even messier, but we're going to clean it up in a minute. The next step is to reorganize your information. So what we're going to do is we're going to put all the x values that belong to the x terms together, and then all the y values together as well. Now, those numbers that go with the x's include the 1, because we divided 2 by 2 and then squared it and got 1. And for the y's, that includes that 9 on the end of our equation before the equal sign, because we took 6 divided by 2 and got 3 and squared it and got 9. So it will look like this. You notice we have x squared, then the 2x, then the 1 that we got from the 2. Then we have y squared, and then the 6y, and then the 9 we got from the 6. Okay? Now, the other thing that we did that you might not have seen is you'll notice that on the top here, or in the middle rather, we had a negative 15. Well, now it's on the other side of the equal sign as positive 15. Okay, that's another piece of reorganization. So the only stuff we're keeping on the left is the stuff that deals with the x's or the y's. Everything else goes to the right-hand side of the equal sign. Okay. All right, next slide. So this at the top is the same thing that we ended with on the last slide, so you don't need to write it down again. Okay, that's just where we stopped with the last thing. So the next step is going to be to factor this. So what we're going to have is by completing the square, which is what we did with the 1 and the 9, all right, we've made perfect squares out of the x squared plus 2x plus 1. Okay, and what that is you're going to have something that's in parentheses that's being squared. The same can be said for the y squared plus 6y plus 9. Okay, so if you think about it, what two numbers multiply to give you 1 and add up to 2? Well, that'd be 1 and 1. The same thing happens, what two numbers get multiplied to 9 and add up to 6? Well, that's 3 and 3, which are the same values we got when we divided the 2 and the 6 by 2. All right, so what we're going to end up with is this. You have x plus 1 times x plus 1, which is really just x plus 1 squared. And then y plus 3 times y plus 3, which is just y plus 3 squared. On the right-hand side, if we added up 15, 1, and 9, we'd get 25. And now we have our equation in standard form, okay, which now we can then graph it. So again, we find the center by taking the h and k, so it's going to be negative 1 and negative 3. We find the square root of 25, which should be 5. We use that as a radius, and it goes all the way around the center point of the circle. Okay, now I can understand that the general form might be a little bit confusing. We're going to see it again. I'm going to try and walk you through it one more time. Okay, so we're going to put this into standard form. This is general form. So again, we're going to take the C and the D numbers, which are the 10 and the 4. We're going to divide them by 2, and we're going to square that result. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. 5 squared is 25. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 2 squared is 4. So we have the 25 and the 4 on both sides of the equal sign now. Okay. All right. So then the next step is to reorganize everything. So all the x's are going to go, all the x terms are going to go together. So that would be x squared, 10x, and 25. And all the y squareds are going to go together. Or sorry, the y terms. So we have y squared, 4y, and 4. Okay, and then that negative 7 on the left-hand side of the equal sign will get moved to the right-hand side of the equal sign and become positive 7. So it looks like this. So again, we have x squared plus 10x plus 25. Those are all the x term values that we're going to deal with. And then we have y squared plus 4y plus 4. And then we're done with all the terms. Now the 7 is on the other side, plus the 25 plus the 4 that we had from when we divided the numbers and squared them. If we factor that, and there's hopefully you might have noticed it when we did it before, but when you took the 10 divided by 2 and got 5, that's the number that's going to be inside the parentheses. Same thing when we took the 4 and divided by 2. We got 2, right? So if you look here, you got 5 and 2 inside the parentheses. It's not a coincidence. That's the way it's supposed to be. All right, so we have x plus 5 squared, y plus 2 squared equals 7 plus 25 plus 4, which gives you 36. All right, so now our equation is from general into standard form. We can go ahead and graph it. So there's the equation we just made. The h comma k is going to be negative 5 and negative 2. So we can plot that point. All right, you'll notice that the origin is now kind of offset so we can fit the graph in the right spot. The radius is going to be the square root of 36, which is 6. We go up, down, left, and right, 6 from the center point. There we go. There's your circle. All right, got one more example of the general to standard form. But what I'd like you to do is pause the video, try this one out on your own, see what you come up with, and then come back. All right, so hopefully you paused it. Hopefully you've got some kind of answer, and now you're back. So here we go. So again, we're going to take our C and D values. So this time it's negative 8 and positive 12. We're going to divide those both by 2 and square it. So negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. And negative 4 quantity squared is positive 16. And then 12 divided by 2 is 6, and 6 squared is 36. So we're going to have this. So notice the 16 and 36 on both sides of the equal sign. Everything else is the same. Okay, we can then reorganize our numbers and our values. So the x squared, the negative 8x, and the 16 will be next to each other. And the y squared plus 12y plus 36 will be next to each other. And the 3 that's on the left-hand side of the equal sign will get subtracted to the right-hand side of the equal sign. It will look like this. So hopefully that's what you have. Okay. Now we can take the factorization. Since we took negative 8 divided by 2, it's going to be negative 4. And then we took 12 divided by 2, it's going to be positive 6. So it's going to have x minus 4 squared, y plus 6 squared. And then when you add up 36, 16, and negative 3, you'll get 49. So that's the equation you should have gotten for your standard form. And now we can take that and graph it. So that's our equation. The center of h comma k is going to be positive 4 and negative 6. So we're going to plot that point. Our radius is going to be square root of 49, which is 7. We go up, down, left, and right, 7. And there we got it. All right. Now the last thing we're going to do for these circles is what we've been doing for a lot of the other, for all of them, is we've done an equation and you've done the graph. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the graph and make an equation. So there's the graph of your circle. Okay, so it's pretty simple and straightforward. You find the coordinates for the center, find out what the radius is, and then write it down in your formula. Okay, so our center part of our circle in this case is negative 2, comma 1. Our radius, and it doesn't make a difference which side you pick from up, down, left, or right, is going to be 3. So now we're going to put those into our circle equation. So it's going to be x plus 2 quantity squared and y minus 1 quantity squared equals 9. Okay, so the h and k values switch signs when they go back into the equation, and you square the 3 to give you 9. Okay, this probably, I think it's the last one. So here the center is going to be 3 comma negative 4. The radius is 4. Now we put those values into the circle equation. So you'll have x minus 3 quantity squared plus y plus 4 quantity squared equals the 4 squared, which is 16. And that's it. Okay, so that is circles. We've done graphing standards equations. We've done converting general to standard and then graphing them. We've done writing the equations given the graph. All right. Good luck on the practice, and we'll talk to you soon.